Al Halalim La Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakudash, double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, and salutations and blessings to the hopeful elect. Coming back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. This is a documentary I suggest, serious brothers watch. It's 55 minutes, right? You can type it in Google, but it's on rumble.com and it's titled The Dynasty of Rothschild, the only trillionaires in the world. I'm going to play a few minutes of it and then bring out some information and whatever scriptures the Spirit wills, it's going to come out. But before I do that, and before we get to that, let's get Job 9 and 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, so the earth is given unto whom? Or from whom, I should say. Let's go to Alright, this is Daniel 4:17. This matters by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know. We're here to tell you. This is what we're here to tell you. That the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. Okay? And if you go to the book of Job 30, it'll tell you that they were base men, children of fools. So you got to tie this whole thing in, right? So now you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and he gives it to whomsoever he will. He sets up one kingdom and destroys, or he destroys one and sets up another, and and continuous, the continuous circle, right, goes on until the nation of Israel will be established, right? That shall never be, a kingdom that's eternal, right? So back to 9:24, Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And that was a tactic that they used. It was called iconoclasm. Like icon meaning image, clasm means to destroy. Okay, that's why when we say things like so-called black men or Negroes ruled Europe, and we're talking about England, Austria, Germany, France, Spain, right? That peninsula, Spain, Portugal, and the islands, they call it what? The Iberian Peninsula. The Iberian Peninsula is what? What does that word Iberian mean? It goes back to Ibar, which is Hebrew. Russia, all these different kingdoms were ruled by Israelites. But the wicked have hid that. They have hid it. So who's the wicked? Who's ruling the earth? Right, that's the real question, is who is ruling the earth, and unto whom was it given? That's the point of this documentary. So let's play it.
Now let's take a look at the role of the Rothschild family, the family said to be the wealthiest in the world.
Money is the god of our time, and Rothschild is his prophet. Heinrich Heine. The mythology surrounding the Rothschilds' wealth and power is 2 centuries old. The resulting mythology has proved almost as long-lived as the firm of N.M. Rothschild and Sons itself. Ever since the second decade of the 19th century, there has been speculation about the origins and extent of the family's wealth. about their political influence, not only in the 5 countries where there were Rothschild houses, but throughout the world, about their Judaism. The 5 Rothschild houses constitute an early version of what later became known as the multinational. Perhaps the most important point to grasp about this multinational partnership is that for most of the century between 1815 and 1914, it was easily the biggest bank in the world. Strictly in terms of their combined capital, the Rothschilds were in a league of their own until, at the earliest, the 1880s. The 20th century has no equivalent. Because they were so rich, the Rothschilds could plainly claim a material equivalence with the European aristocracy. They relished the sense that they were sans pareil. In this sense, phrases like kings of the Jews, which contemporaries applied to them, contained an important element of truth. That was exactly the way the Rothschilds saw and conducted themselves. There are no fewer than 153 species or subspecies of insect which bear the name Rothschild.
Did you hear that? So that means that certain insects they named after themselves. Now, this is another point. This is a side note, but this is a big point. This goes into them being proud and wanting to be like the Most High. Because who was really given that authority to name all the animals? It was Adam. Who was who? That was Yahushua in the spirit. Right? So when you read in the book of Genesis, right, it says the Most High brought all the animals, and he would see what he would name them, what he named them. So guess what? Esau's taxonomy and botanicals, which is all Latin based, right, where he has zoology and different names of animals all in Latin, going back to Latin, different herbs, right? Because when I deal with the herbs, or even essential oils or whatnot, the way you really know what it is, right? Because you can have a common English name, right? But you need to know the Latin of it. When you look at the Latin, you say, oh, okay, this is really that. Because, like, for example, cedar. A lot of times cedar, when you buy essential oil cedar, it'll actually be a juniper, and you'll read it in the Latin, and it'll say juniperus, or something to that effect, but you'll see it's not a cedar, right? Where cedar in Latin is different. You have the Atlas cedar and the red cedar, right? But a lot of times they'll sell it under cedar, but it's actually a common juniper tree. You know, so you need to know the Latin, and that goes back to what? That goes back to Esau's system, the image of the beast, right? That everybody worships. You go to medical school and you hope to you know, whatever field you want to master, you hope to gain that knowledge, and you study continuously, you know, at a prestigious institution, and you pay how much money? Well, you got to come up in the image of the beast. So I just wanted to bring that out. That was interesting, but keep listening because it gets very interesting.
As well as 58 birds, 18 mammals, and 14 plants, including a rare slipper orchid, Capheo pedalum rothschildianum, to say nothing of 3 fish, 3 spiders, and 2 reptiles. The family's almost equally recurrent enthusiasm for the pleasures of the taste.
So these people name fish, mammals, insects, plants after themselves. This is the top the top oligarchs of the earth. One of the top, but I would say the top, even though like the Oppenheimers, they're older technically, but I would have to, you know, man, that's the family. You know, even though you have contemporary families like Rockefeller, the DuPonts, you have a lot of different you have about what, 12, 13 different bloodlines, right? So I would have to conclude that the Rothschild are the top elite, man, like the top family. Everything goes through them.
The table has also bestowed the name on a souffle and a savory, prawns, cognac, and Gruyere on toast. There are towns and numerous streets named after members of the family in Israel, Rothschild-owned vineyards at Mouton and Lafitte whose wines are drunk the world over, numerous Rothschild-built houses from the Vale of Aylesbury to the Riviera, and there is even a Rothschild island in the Antarctic. Rothschilds energetically pursued.
Right, so there's even a damn island, man, which I looked it up. Right, in Antarctica. And what are they doing up there? They probably have some operation or bunker, whatever the case is. They have something going on there, man. Okay, all the way up in goddamn Antarctica. It says this is a black rugged island, 24 or 39 kilometers long, mainly ice covered but surrounded by prominent peaks of Desco Mountains in Antarctica. So this thing is a mountain. Basically, it's surrounded by peaks of mountains. What the hell are they doing up there? It's a black rugged island. Right? This is the top wicked, man. I'm gonna keep playing.
Pursued and acquired decorations, titles, and other honors, securing the ultimate prize, an English peerage, in 1885. The third generation also threw themselves into hunting and horse racing, those quintessentially aristocratic pastimes. They also extended their patronage to include writers, Benjamin Disraeli, Honoré de Balzac, and Heinrich Heine, musicians, notably Frédéric Chopin and Gioacchino Rossini, as well as architects and artists. In more ways than one, they were the 19th century's Medicis. From the very earliest days, the Rothschilds appreciated the importance of proximity to politicians, the men who determined not only the extent of budget deficits, but also the domestic and foreign policies which so influenced the financial markets. And politicians soon came to realize the importance of proximity to the Rothschilds, who at times seemed indispensable to the solvency of the states the politicians governed, and who could always be relied upon to provide up-to-the-minute political news. When the former de Rothschild Frères director, Georges Pompidou, became prime minister in April 1962, and later president in 1969, Le Canard Enchaîné commented simply, RF equals République Française equals Rothschild Frères. Similar echoes can be found in the British press, too. Inferences were sometimes drawn in the 1980s from the fact that a number of conservative politicians had worked for N.M. Rothschild and Sons Limited, either before or after their political careers, at a time when the firm was handling a number of important privatizations. In the 1880s and 1890s, their advice on imperial matters was sought by both the Marquis of Salisbury and the Earl of Rosebery, Gladstone's successor as Liberal Prime Minister. Indeed, Rosebery was married to a Rothschild, Meyer's daughter, Hannah. Rothschild influence extended to royalty as well. It is extraordinary to find that the family's interests in the financial affairs of King George IV predated his accession to the throne by as much as 15 years. How did Meyer Amschel, then the father of an obscure Manchester textile merchant, come to acquire a bill on the Prince Regent? The likeliest answer is that he bought it from the Elector of Hesse Castle, who had made a number of loans to the sons of George III in the 1790s. 10 years later, with Nathan firmly established as a banker in London, the sons of Meyer Amschel turned to these other royal debts with the intention of making Nathan, in Amschel's somewhat old-fashioned phrase, court banker in England.
And the main reason they could do that is they were usurers. You know, that was their thing. They were lenders. And what does the scripture say? The borrower is servant to the lender. Right? And that's a thing that they know because guess what? They study the scriptures. Right? They study the scriptures because the father, who's before he was named Rothschild, his name was Bauer, which meant servant. Right? And he had, like it says, 5 sons, and he taught them the Torah. So they knew the laws, and therein is wisdom. Right?
Nor was George IV the only member of the British royal family to whom Nathan lent money in the 1820s. In 1824, for example, he lent £10,000 to the Duke of York, as well as giving him 100 complimentary shares in the Alliance Assurance Company. The Rothschilds also looked ahead to the next generation. In 1816, the only child of the Prince Regent, Princess Charlotte, was betrothed to a minor German prince, Leopold of Saxe-Coburg, the youngest son of Duke Francis Frederick. The brothers at once recognized Leopold's potential importance. Not for nothing did one Rothschild writer of the 1840s point out the similarity between the House of Rothschild and the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, those two extended German families which were to rise from obscurity to glory in the course of the 19th century.
Because the Saxe-Coburg, this is something the apostles brought out years ago. They married into the English, right? And that was the Edomite line, the Saxe-Coburg line. You can look that up. Which I believe there was a term called New Royalty. They were dubbed, and as the documentary just said, they rose from obscurity. Where the hell did they come from? This damn sewers, man. All right, but they rose to prominence, royalty. This is all scriptural, man. You gotta have eyes to see and ears to hear, man. All right.
Indeed, theirs was to be an almost symbiotic relationship. The 3.5 million gulden lent...
Because they're Edomites. They were friends. They became friends because they're Edomites, two prominent Edomite families. You know, they rose from peasantry. Oh, hello, sir. You know, brother. Yeah, see, my Edomite brother. Right? You know? Even though they're devils, man. And they can stab each other in the back. You know, but this was the time of Esau's real climatic rule, because you had the empires that gotten absurd amount of wealth from the New World and from captivity, from slavery, right? Enslaving the Israelites and reaping the benefits and their resources and their labor. But these were just families, man. This was one man with 5 children who took over, basically, took over the damn world. Dr. Evil, man.
Lent to the Saxe-Coburgs by the Frankfurt House between 1837 and 1842 was only one aspect of the connection. Of greater importance was the support which the Rothschilds gave to those members of the family who left Coburg in search of new thrones elsewhere. Not that the Rothschilds lost interest in the question of the British succession following Princess Charlotte's death. When the Prince Regent's brother, the Duke of Kent, set off for Germany to marry Victoria of Saxe-Coburg, he took with him a letter of credit on the Frankfurt Rothschilds. When the marriage produced a daughter, Victoria, who at once became next in line to the throne, Nathan hastened to offer the proud father financial advice and his exclusive messenger service. Nathan's sons continued to act as the Duchess's banker after the Duke's death, relaying money to her brother Ferdinand of Saxe-Coburg. These tenuous links were enhanced by careful cultivation of Leopold of Saxe-Coburg, who later became King Leopold I of the Belgians. Nor was his nephew Albert above turning to the Rothschilds for financial assistance after he became Queen Victoria's prince consort. In turn, Victoria and Albert's eldest son was on friendly terms with many members of the family before and after he succeeded his mother as Edward VII. The list of Victorian politicians who were close to the Rothschilds is a long one. Lionel's campaign for admission to the House of Commons in the late 1840s and 1850s enjoyed support from Whigs like Lord John Russell and Peelites like Gladstone, but also protectionist Tories like Disraeli and Lord George Bentinck. They were attracted not only to Disraeli, but also to Lord Randolph Churchill, Joseph Chamberlain, and Arthur Balfour. Even as late as the first decade of the 20th century, the system of partnerships continued to function in such a way that English Rothschilds had a financial stake in the Paris House, and French Rothschilds a stake in the London House. The history of the Rothschilds also helps to illuminate the long-running differences between British, French, and German banking, for the obvious reason that the various Rothschild houses worked in similar, though not identical ways in each country. In addition to the inevitable web of credits and debits with other firms which arose from these activities, the Rothschilds also offered to a select group of customers, usually royal and aristocratic individuals whom they wished to cultivate, a range of personal banking services, ranging from large personal loans, as in the case of the Austrian Chancellor Prince Metternich, to a first-class private postal service, as in the case of Queen Victoria. And the Rothschilds were also major industrial investors, an aspect of their business which has often been underestimated. When the development of railways raised the possibility of transforming Europe's transport system in the 1830s and 1840s, the Rothschilds were among the leading financial backers of lines, beginning in France, Austria, and Germany.
I'm going to play about just 10 minutes, you know. You brothers and sisters can check that out. But, you know, it's a good documentary. But as you see, they were bringing out things on the industry and them being financial backers and whatnot. But what do you call it? They were into all different things. They were into, like I said, lending. They were also there's that story of they tricked the people, right? They got the news first that Napoleon lost, but he had told people that Napoleon won, or you know, when the news spread, and the stocks basically crashed because people sold, or sold, you know, their holdings, and they bought up the pennies on the dollar, right, very cheaply. And then when the real news that Napoleon lost came out, right, that balloon inflated, and they got rich. But they were also into opium, right? They were trading opium. There was opium wars, so they're in a bunch of different things, man. All right, you can only imagine what they're into, right? But this is the top of wicked elite, right? This is the top Edomites on the earth, you know. This is Psalm 73 and 3. It says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." You can't imagine the prosperity of these demons. Like Epstein, he's just a guy, man. He was a guy that came up probably in a family, and then he met some contacts, and he got plugged in. He was just a regular Amalekite, man. Okay, he was a regular dude, right? So think about the people that put things into motion. Verse 4, "For there are no bans in their death," meaning restrictions. You know, let us cast bans on them. That's in Psalms 83, I believe, or 84. So they oppress you, the Israelites, right? But these people, they run free, because the earth, first of all, they're fugitives, a fugitive and a vagabond, right? They move from place to place. It says, verse 5, "They are not in trouble as other men." These are not, they look like regular, frail, actually not even regular. They look frail, but listen, man, these are like gods on the earth, basically, right? That's the power they're given. "Neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment," right? Murder, it's nothing. You want to talk about starting wars, right? That's why there's a saying, I forgot who said it, but they said all wars are banker wars, or bankers' wars, right? Verse 7, "Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish." You can't imagine that. You cannot imagine that, man. You know, you coming home, from work, pumping your gas, ordering Uber Eats, paying your bills. You can't imagine that, man. And then even people like, like Mayweather, yeah, they have a comfortable life, regardless of how they made those deals, right? But nonetheless, even those people, they're about to take a nosedive, right? They're not experiencing things that the Rothschilds experience, or the Oppenheimers, or the top families. It says, "They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily." So we know their spirit. They're proud. They're lofty. Lofty means very high and proud. "They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Meaning what? Their doctrine, their persuasion, their ideologies, their wine. Right? Verse 10, therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them, and they say, how doth the Most High know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Because they have, what is that called? Hermeneutics, and occult, different readings in the Kabbalah, and all kinds of knowledge. Not wisdom, but knowledge. Right? It says, behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Let me look up that word prosper, man. All right? The word prosper is shalah, which means quiet, at ease, prosperous. So at ease, man, they're good. When Jake says I'm good, they're good. They're really good. All right? They don't got to worry about getting pulled over. They don't have to worry about getting audited. They don't have to worry about being in debt. They don't have to worry about inflation. They don't got to worry about shit, but what they do have to worry about is the angels and the Most High and Yahweh Bashim Yoshai. Right? It says, verily I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. And that was pretty much the point. But I'll keep reading, because this is how Jake is right now. This is us. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. And that's a good thing we're being chastened. Because guess what? The scripture says, if you're not chastened, then bastards are ye, and not sons. The Most High doesn't look at you as a son. Verse 15, if I say, I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children, which we are offending these Edomites by speaking the truth. Speaking, when it means speaking thus, meaning this gospel, this truth, this knowledge, wisdom and understanding. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of the Most High, then understood I therein. And Jake don't understand that. Jake's not in the sanctuary of the Most High. He's not in these scriptures. Jake is he's on the outside looking carnally through the eyes of the flesh, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the world and everything in it. Jake doesn't see that. All right? Verse, that's why it's beautiful. You brothers understand what this is. We understand what's going on, what's going to happen. Verse 18, surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. They are in slippery places. They're about to fall. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. And rightfully so, because Yahweh is known as who? Al-Ashadya, demon-like terrible power. Right, verse 19, how are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I, and ignorant I was as a beast before thee. This was us in the world, brothers, man. You were a beast. You were living off what you were taught from who? Your mother, school, your father, who wasn't. If he's not in the truth, then what? What were you taught? Catholicism, Buddhism, Islam. What kind of religion? You were not taught. You were a beast. You went off your feelings, man. You went off what you felt. Right? Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart. And that was a point. That was a real point. Right? So I hope you're edified. I want to say Kal Halalim, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from. And salutations, peace and blessing to the hopeful elect. Until the next one, Shalom.